A lot to get to on this voting bill. To break it all down, let's bring in Oklahoma Senator James Lankford. Senator, thanks for being here with us.
Glad to be able to be with you, actually.
All right, so Chuck Schumer, really, it looks like this will not pass right now. He's doing this to put everyone on the record and say, see, no Republican voted for this, and to tell his base, I tried. But at the end of the day, Senator Manchin is trying to make a deal. Do you think that there is any way that 10 Republicans would buy into this right now?
Yeah, we haven't seen what actually that deal would be. I would tell you, if the deal is to federalize elections and to say states are not competent to be able to carry their own elections, only smart people in Washington, D.C. can run the elections, no Republicans are not going to agree to that at all. The fact is that all around the country in the past several months, all kinds of legislatures, Republican, Democrat, and governors have signed on to new legislation to be able to increase voting access, to be able to increase the number of days of voting, to be able to tighten up gaps that they've had in state election law. That's where the real debate should be. It shouldn't be on the federal side. It should be on the state side. That's where the problems existed. That's who's actually fixing elections. It's the exact same thing that happened in 2001 when you had broad agreement across the country where states looked at the Al Gore, George Bush election and said, we're going to fix some things. Lots of states are stepping in to fix things. They're not trying to suppress the vote. They're trying to make it easy to vote, hard to cheat. What the Democrats are trying to do with this S1 bill is easy to vote, easy to cheat, and impossible to verify an election when it's over. That's exactly the wrong formula.
Senator, as Lindsay mentioned, Senator Joe Manchin did submit a list of compromises, 2 or 3 pages of compromises that some Americans might say, these are some common sense things. But Senator Mitch McConnell quickly shot it down, calling it unconstitutional. The Democrats have all been in lockstep, saying that if you're not in favor of these bills, it's like supporting Jim Crow. They, the left-wing media, Hollywood, even the corporations are out there calling Republicans racists for not supporting this legislation. How do Republicans defend themselves from those charges?
Well, let me begin with the most basic thing. Jim Crow laws were passed by Democrats in the South all the way through all that time in the past. If people want to actually look at history, Jim Crow laws were passed by and supported by Democrat legislators across the South. That's number one. We are the party of Lincoln. We are the party that actually deals with civil rights issues and the way to be able to provide opportunity for every person, every place. That's who we are as Republicans. That's first. Second thing is they're running this false narrative about you're trying to suppress the vote by doing things like our state. We increase the number of in-person absentee votes in days that you could actually vote in person. That's not suppressing the vote. That's increasing the vote. They go back and they look at Georgia and say, well, Georgia increased the number of days, but they talked about at one point decreasing the number of days. Talking about and actually passing legislation is completely different, and they know it. So they like to run with this whole agenda to say they've discussed at one point suppressing the vote, and so they must all be terrible human beings, and we've got to have a federal takeover to be able to solve that. I don't see the federal government as some moral entity, and the state legislatures are these immoral. So I don't see Washington, D.C. righteous, states unrighteous. I see people and leaders across the country trying to be able to make right decisions, maybe make sure they can protect the right to vote for every person.
I just saw a new Monmouth poll that came out and showed that 80% of Americans actually agree with voter ID. And then you saw over the weekend that we had Raphael Warnock and Stacey Abrams. They came out and said, oh, actually, we agree with voter ID all along, which we know is not true. But, Senator, does this prove the case that the Republicans just need to expose more and more what is in this bill, and it has been successful to say, actually, America wants voter ID. This is not something that America wants. Do you think the Republicans are doing a good enough job of that right now?
We are. We continue to be able to put that message out over and over and over again. You look at what was the conversation 4 months ago about this bill, which, by the way, this bill is not new. It's been around for years and years and years. Democrats just roll it out every couple of years and have a new excuse to be able to run it. We've talked about this bill over and over again. Overwhelming calls that come into my office are in opposition to this bill. The more they learn about it, the more that they hate this bill. And so just getting the information out about this 880-page bill of a federal takeover of elections, as you mentioned before, no voter ID, along with ballot harvesting, along with same-day registration. So literally, you would have a situation if this bill passed where you could go up to a precinct to vote, say, I'm not registered to vote, I want to register to vote, not show ID, and vote at the spot. Right. Or with ballot harvesting, you could have political operatives walk in on election day with a box full of ballots and to say all these are ballots I collected from all over the place, turn them in, and you can't challenge those. Yeah. That's why I say it makes it easy to vote, easy to cheat, and impossible to verify. People in Oklahoma, in my state, do not want people showing up with a box full of ballots saying, right, trust me, I verified all these. The way that we do it now is to be able to say it has to come through the mail, so we have a chain of custody, or it has to be able to actually come to a voting individual. That way we actually know where that's ballot been. I don't like, trust me, I've got a box full of ballots and they're good.
Yeah, that's a message that definitely has to get out. I want to switch gears a little bit here. Also on the table right now is this infrastructure bill. Senator Bernie Sanders said Republicans are getting, quote, bogged down in the numbers. Of course, the numbers are the money. So you have a socialist who doesn't really obviously care very much about how much money we spend. But, you know, the question is, where is Joe Biden here? Doesn't he need to engage to get a win here? Because, you know, if Sanders is driving this conversation, it's simply not going to happen.
It's not going to happen if Senator Sanders is driving it, but he's driving a lot of the conversation in D.C. and in the Biden administration. This is really the Sanders administration, because so many of the staff that Joe Biden has selected were staff that Bernie Sanders actually encouraged and to be able to push into the White House. So that's the real decision making here. Joe Biden met with Shelley Moore Capito, Republican leader of that committee, for a while. They talked about infrastructure issues, and then he set that aside. Literally, he left town and went to Europe and said, I'm going to allow other senators to be able to work this out. And now we've got 21 senators, Republicans and Democrats, trying to be able to work out an infrastructure proposal because the White House has been absent in this. At the end of the day, infrastructure has always been bipartisan. And yes, it's always about the numbers. It shouldn't be a shocking thing to say, what can we afford? That should be a normal part of our conversation in government. And for the president and the White House to be focused now and to be an FDR-like or an Eisenhower-like, we want to be giant. We want to have the biggest package ever. We want to be historic. Republicans are saying that's fine. You want to be historic. We want to build roads and bridges and be able to pay for them, to be able to keep it in budget. That should be our goal, is what do we need right now, and accomplishing that, not trying to be historic in the process.
Yeah, be historic to keep it in budget. Senator Lankford, thanks for being here. Always appreciate your time.
You bet. Good to visit you all again.